This is Susan, the ProgressBook trainer, and I'm here to talk with you about Virtual Classroom and getting started in this base camp on Virtual Classroom in your district. I'm here with Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark MMasloski from Jefferson County Educational Service Center. I'm the director of our online curriculum.
Mark and I are going to share some information with you of how Virtual Classroom from ProgressBook and the Jefferson County ESC courses work together to provide benefits to your students in your district. So Mark, tell me a little bit about what your content does for those districts.
One thing that I enjoy about our curriculum is that I believe it meets all the needs of the students in the school. There's plenty of intervention activities, remediation activities, enrichment. There's things for everybody, and it's very easy to accommodate your students and modify your activities for the students where everybody has a chance to do really well into the curriculum. There's plenty of things to do. It's easy access for videos, activities. If you're able to PDF and print things out, you can do that as well. So we really have updated all of our links, our courses. Everything's aligned to higher standards. Our authors of our courses are all higher teachers, either highly qualified teachers or professors at 2 local universities and colleges. So we feel really comfortable with our curriculum, and I'm really excited to use this more as a blended approach in the classroom.
Excellent. So a lot of the things that Mark just talked about are things we're going to show you today. And I want to tell you that both of us are former teachers, so we're excited about the prospect of having ready-made material that can work with Virtual Classroom. As Mark said, you can blend these activities, so online, maybe not online, but also your own personal activities with the pre-made content. I know, Mark, just thinking back to my days and the days when, I was really sick, and there were days when I went to school when I probably shouldn't have, but having something like this would have allowed me to say, here's what you're working on today. This is the ready-made content that's available to you.
Yeah, and I believe students today are so tech savvy and comfortable with technology, and we should be able to put things in their hands where they're comfortable. They're probably sometimes more comfortable than teachers with computer skills and so forth too. And this gives them the opportunity to actually enhance their learning outside the 40-minute period day or 1 period day, because it's all one access. Students do know their username and passwords for ProgressBook. Everything's placed at the same place, same location. And it's really easy to assign activities for your students during the school day, during the period, and in the evening as well. So there's plenty of things that the students can do to enhance their learning.
All right, so let's get right into adding courses. The first thing we're going to show you is how to import the ready-made courses for your subject area. And we're going to also create a new course, and I will show you how to create a district course. So the ready-made courses, we already said, great opportunity for you to have additional activities for your students or remediation or differentiation. Creating a new course is going to allow you to put your own online activities in this virtual classroom setting. And a district course is a possibility for you to use for things like common assessments. We're going to talk about each of those, so let's get right into it. I am going to go to our demo site, and hopefully this looks familiar to you, the teacher homepage for Gradebook. I know there's a lot of information on here, but smack dab in the middle of this screen is online learning and dashboard. This is where you're going to get the content that's ready-made and also to create new courses for your students. When you first come in here, this is all you're going to see. The Let's Get Started, a little bit of information, add your first course. As you add courses, you will have different squares for each course, and we'll show you that as we go through. But the easiest thing to do right now is to get started with Mark's content from Jefferson County. We're going to go to Add a Course. I'm going to select Import Course, and it's going to take me to my library. The public library is what we call it. You will have a list of courses by subject as well as grade level.
Susan, one thing I like about this ProgressBook library is that teachers are going to be able to pull over 150 courses. Obviously, a teacher's not going to use 150 courses, but as you're going to see, you're going to be able to pick a subject area, and then from that subject area, you're going to see many numerous courses. And even though if you're only teaching, say, government or American government, we have other courses as well. We have citizenship you could pull over. We have geography you might want to pull over because there's lessons in those that you might be able to use in your classroom.
So where would you like me to start, Mark? Which subject area?
Well, I was a highly qualified teacher in social studies, so let's pick social studies.
I'm going right there. So we're going to do social studies and we're going to click search. Now, for the purposes of this demo, there are only a few that I can import, but you will see, since your district has purchased this content, you will be able to see all of the courses and import the ones that you are choosing. So right now, Mark, I only have a few choices, but let me scroll down so people can see all of the content that is available to them. And go ahead, Mark, which one should I pick that has an import button?
I would pick the first one, the Air America Government Test Prep course. And as you can see, it tells you the grade level too, obviously 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. And this is a end of course exam, and this will prepare the students for that course. The assessments on there are very similar to the type of questions they'll be wanting to answer for the end of the course exam as well.
So I've clicked on the import button, and as soon as this loads, it'll take us back to our LMS dashboard, our virtual classroom dashboard. So now we're back to the dashboard and we can see that course has been added. Now we're going to talk about that course specifically, but I want to talk a little bit more about the dashboard, including a couple of features. So the first thing I want to show you is there is a plus sign over here that gives you an additional menu, including getting back to your gradebook homepage, getting to the library this way, and even taking a look at the other applications. I'm going to be honest with you, I tend to not use that side at all. Mark, how about you?
No, I never use that side. And I used, obviously as a Progress user for 20 years in the education field, so I never use that feature.
So we can get back to our gradebook from going here at the little house in the corner, but there's other ways to get into gradebook from within Virtual Classroom. So we have this course, we're going to talk about that in a second, but I'm going to go ahead and add another course right now. This time though, I'm going to add a new course, just so you can see the difference between the two. And for this one, I am going to call it Social Studies. Now, as a teacher, I would probably actually name this with a period maybe not, because I am actually connecting my courses to my classes. So let's take a second to talk about that. And we're going to talk about this more than once during this time. I'm creating courses, which really is your content, your resources, your questions, your tests, your essay assignments. That's what the course is. With each course, I am going to connect it to classes. So what I've done now on my dashboard is I've created 2 courses that I'm probably going to use with the same kids. I'm going to connect them to the same classes and use activities for each for that class. Unlike some other LMSs, this dashboard is actually your dashboard. Your students get to this through their ProgressBook login, which is where they see their grades and the activities.
And I think teachers are really going to enjoy this because it's one site, one username, one password, which I really like. And once you do activities and assessments, the grades go directly right into gradebook. I think that's just a great feature.
Perfect. So we have 2 courses in here. Let's take a look at some of the options for the courses. You have a little wrench here for some settings. We can delete the course. We can put it in our personal recycle bin, which is not a bad idea sometimes if you don't really want to get rid of it totally. The same options are over here, except we can also copy this course. You might want to copy a created course that you make to share with another teacher so that you have your copy of everything you want, but you share it with someone else so that they can make changes if they want to. That's one of the reasons you might do that. We also have some other links below each of the courses. One is content, grading, and settings. I'm going to go to settings first on our Jefferson County content, because this is a place where I could rename this for me. So I might want to call it anything really. Sometimes I see those abbreviations for ELA and I just want to write it out. I want to say this is my English course. So you can change it here. You can put a description here if you'd like to. One of my favorite things is to change the color. So I personally will put my JCESC courses in green, and then the ones that I make I'll put in blue or purple. Color coding is totally up to you. It just is a way for you to visualize your courses on your dashboard. Hide on dashboard is a great one for, let's say, semester courses. I'm changing semesters. I want to hide my first semester course. It's still there. You're just not going to see it. It declutters your dashboard. So I'm going to click on Update. And we're going to go back to the dashboard just to make sure we see we got green, we got blue, and that was the settings. So we have imported a course with ready-made material with the Air Prep. We've created our own course called Social Studies. I want to do one more thing in adding a new course, and I want to call this is going to be a district course. Now, you're going to call it something more specific than district course, but let me show you where that setting is just so you know. I can call this whatever I want. This could still be called Social Studies. It could be Social Studies Grade 5, and all my 5th grade teachers are going to use this same course. There's an option here called District Course. We're going to check that off. And why this is important is this will then go into the library where we were just choosing the content from Jefferson County, and all of your teachers who teach this particular course can import the district course and use the material there at the same time. When we get to content, we're going to talk about district assessments as well. So let me go ahead back to our dashboard. I'm going to update. I'm going to go back to our dashboard. Now we have 3 courses. So we've created your courses, 3 different types of courses, and now we want to talk a little bit about content. We're going to talk about adding things like a folder, which just helps you as a teacher to be organized. Adding a quiz, which can be a test as well as a quiz, or it could be a replacement worksheet answering questions, some kind of in-class assignment, even though it's called a quiz, it can cover all of that. You can add a discussion into these courses. A common assessment would be a great way to test across a grade band or across multiple buildings in a district. You can certainly import a file, or you can even import questions from previous courses that you've created. Now, to be honest with you, we're not going to go through all of that, but this is the functionality we have in Virtual Classroom. We're going to talk about the list that I have right here. Jefferson County content activities, resources for your students, quizzes, tests, essays, district assessments, and discussions. So let's go back into our dashboard. We're going to start with that Jefferson County content. That's the content link, which basically takes you to a list of all the pre-made content for this particular course. Look at all of these areas that we have.
And particular for this course is each lesson, there's 18 lessons, is based on the higher learning standards. It does go in order by the standards. There is some review. There's actually an exam at the end, and it's all based, and we'll eventually go into this to look in a little bit more detail, but you could rename these if you wanted to.
Let's talk about a little bit of the functionality here. So we do have some check boxes, and we can check off certain lessons, and we can delete those lessons if we need to. I don't think they really need to do that though, Mark, because really we're assigning it to a class, so this would only be what the teacher sees. It doesn't make any less confusion for a student.
No, the student's only going to see what the teacher assigns them. So more or less you're going to actually probably just click on the lesson itself.
And something else we can do is if a teacher decides they want to reorder them, then you'll see that I'm just hovering over and clicking on these dotted lines on the left-hand side, and I can move things around very easily.
Yeah, and I guess one thing I would see, you see that there's a review there. I think it's lesson 9. You know, maybe that's something in the beginning of the course you want to start with. Maybe you want to do some type of pre-assessment on the students, see where they're at, see what level they're at, and maybe you want to move that up and give that out first. So I could see a reason for that.
And as Mark was talking, you saw that we had an autosave here. So it's really great that whatever you're doing is autosaving. We'll point out any other things like that so you know how the system works. You'll also notice that I can add. So I can add an additional quiz if I want to here to blend in my own curriculum. But really, we're going to talk about a different way to do that. So let's talk about the pre-made curriculum and what are some of the options here. So I'm going to ask Mark. Mark, what do you want me to click on?
Let's click on civic participation and skills.
So when I open up this lesson, I am coming to a screen that has some options for me. You can think of this as your quiz screen, but I really want you to think about quizzes as activities, tests, essays, practice work, resources for your students to read, videos for them to watch. So let me walk through this and then we'll look at some of the content. The details are here. I can put instructions if I want to for my students to see. Along with this, we have something called text mode. If you want to get fancy, you can change this to rich text editor and you can put some really fun things in here, including HTML source code if you want to. So there's a lot here. I'm going to point out here's where you can embed some information. This is something for you to play with, and you'll notice that anytime I hover over something, it tells me what it's going to do. So we can do that. I'm going to go back to plain just to take that off. We can say our paging options. Now this is set up as one page, which is great because when you see this lesson, you're going to see that it flows very nicely. For created courses, or even if you wanted to change this, you could change to one page per item, one page per section. It's really important that we take a look at the bottom. Grade book classes, course settings. I have not allowed any students to see this. I can't even connect them until I click on course settings and I add this assignment. I'm going to say, now I'm sorry I don't have a social studies class for my pretend teacher.
That's okay.
I'm going to go with American literature just so we have it. So I'm going to say this particular course content is going to go with these students. They're the ones who I'm going to assign it to. Now, at this point, they don't see any of it yet. I still have to go into the very familiar assignment marks and how you're going to set up this for gradebook. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. Let me go back into my content. And I'm going to go back to that civic participation and skills. So we've assigned it to some classes that will be using it. Let's take a look at the questions. Mark is dying to show you what these look like. So here we go. It's not just questions, is it, Mark?
No. In this section, it says 25 items. You know, I look at, it says questions, but I look at it as 25 items. So there's 25 items here. And this is your textbook, your workbook, your enrichment activities, your application activities, your videos. And I feel real confident in this setting. I remember as a teacher looking for videos, say on a Federalist papers, and spending maybe 35 minutes for a 4 or 5 minute video, where a lot of the videos and so forth we have embedded already, so that the teacher could have utilized a little bit more prep time, because we know a lot of teachers during their prep time are tutoring students, intervening with students, and doing other things. So I think this is a very good tool for teachers.
And something else, we're going to keep scrolling through and taking a look at some of the questions and the items that are in here, but you'll notice that this content is connected to standards, like Mark said. Let me scroll down a little bit so you can see this is still the planning section. So here's where I'm looking at the content that is available. I scrolled through a little bit before so you can see it's not just a bunch of text. We have some visuals that help students to take a look at things. We have a Quizlet link, so it will link to other items on the internet that you can use if your school allows that. And now we get into some of the questions. So here we have some essay questions. I'm going to keep scrolling. You can see that they're worth a certain amount of points. We can keep scrolling. Can you see how this can be a self-paced lesson? It said, okay, stop and answer questions 1 to 10. Once they do that, now they're down to another section. So it breaks it up for the students as well. Gets us away from the read a chapter in the textbook and answer the 5 questions at the end. This gives them a little bit of an opportunity to use some blended learning skills, some of their tech skills.
Yeah, I believe what's nice is you don't have to assign all 25 questions or 25 items. You can assign the first item, which is just text and video and a reinforcement activity on Quizlet. And that's something you could actually, eventually you'll learn how to put that in a resource where that's in the resource page. So at home, the parents can see what the students are doing, and that's there. And what's nice, the teacher puts a date and time when it's open and when it's ended. But that's a really good resource. And what I like too, there's 10 questions there, right, that show that it covers that material. But you can modify that and accommodate that for your students. You know, if I'm going to do a quiz assessment, I could give 3 or 4 of those. I could create my own if I wanted to. We all could take the same assessment. I could have 3 or 4 students take a different. I could provide more rigorous assessments for some students. Some students that's mainstream in the course or has inclusion in the course. We can modify their tests as well. So, and then we know with students around, everybody believes they're taking the same assessment, which they are, but it's at that student's level.
Great point. I'm going to show some of the functionality on this screen, which is the same functionality you would find in a course you create yourself. It's just here we're sort of modifying what is available to us. So you'll notice this blue bar down at the bottom where I can add a question, add a section, or a text or resource. I can also show the answer key. So this is your side of it, the teacher side of it. When I do that, I can see what the questions are. And what the answers are. I can see the point value, and I'm going to scroll way back up to the top. There's 2 places to reorder and select the questions you want to assign. One is down here where it says reorder compact view, and one is right at the top. I'm going to click on that so that you can see the questions. Now, obviously, you would have reviewed these questions already because we're not going to randomly pick which ones we want our students to see. But we can still reorder. So again, you have control over this content to a certain degree of reordering them. That's clicking on the reorder on and moving those questions. We're going to turn that off so we don't mess anything up and we don't have things too much out of order. So something else we can do to modify the content is pick the questions that we want our students to see. And the easiest way to do that is to go ahead and click on Select All. And then let's start to just uncheck the ones that we know we would like our students to see. So now I'm really shortening the assignment. And I'm going to uncheck those. I'm going to click Exclude. And now you're going to notice that a little eye with a line through it icon comes up next to the ones that I have excluded. So this just shortens this rather long lesson into a much more manageable lesson, perhaps because I'm pacing with my content that I have. Or maybe I'm doing it like Mark said for students who are inclusion students and making it a little simpler.
Yeah, and I think this is where you do the blended approach. When I taught, when you walked into the classroom, I always had my projector on, and I always had what I was going to do for the day and so forth too. And you had a desk partner and you had quads. So you either worked with a desk partner or 3 other people, and I could see that this could be an assignment with a quad where somebody's going to be in charge of reading the passage and doing the activities, and then we're going to work on the essays together as a group and typing those into their answers. Or you could modify, and maybe this is going to be your weekly assessment, or maybe this is going to be your exit ticket at the end of the period. So there's many uses that you can have, and I think what's great about it is you're doing it in ProgressBook. Once the students are finished with it, it goes into the teacher's account to grade. Once the teacher grades it, it goes right into the grade book. So it's immediate. We know that students want immediate feedback, and everything's at one source. So we know that if it's in the morning, the students later that evening want to check. We know teachers will have it graded. If it's already a multiple choice true and false, it's computer graded, so they're going to get immediate feedback. So I think that's a really good functionality of this.
And I want to talk a little bit more about the functionality. We're going to go up to the preview button. Preview is a great place to look whether you're making your own quiz or looking at the Jefferson County content. This is going to let you see it as your students would see it. Not to actually take the quiz, because your students need to log in to take it themselves, but this is going to look so familiar to the students. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Preview Quiz. And whether it's a Jefferson County content or your own, we're going to give that a moment to load with the content. So here's what your student will see. And a couple things. First of all, you'll notice there's a PDF file link here, and that same PDF file link was here as well. Let me go back to the expanded view. It's right here. How fantastic to have this as a paper document that I could print out for perhaps just giving it to my intervention specialist, or to the students who need it, or for myself to write notes on. So we have that option to get that PDF file either as a student or as a teacher. Let's go back to what the student is seeing. And again, this is just a preview for me to check how it looks. This is exactly what they will see in the screen environment that they will see it in. And down below, we'll see the 3 questions that we said they should have access to. We're going to actually do an activity a little bit later in this recording, so you'll see how a student would actually submit that activity. All right, so that's taking a look at the content screen and looking at the details, the questions, the standards. Results will appear when you actually grade them, and you can look at these results by standards. So those of you who are doing standards-based grading, that's a definite benefit for looking at the results of your students. I'm going to go back to my dashboard because I want to just quickly show you, we looked at the content that's there, fantastic. We've got a lot of choices, including videos and visuals. Let's look at the content that I'm creating as a teacher, and I'm just going to click on the same content button, and we're going to go ahead and add. Now I'm just going to add a really quick quiz to show you some of the options that we have here. I'm going to just call it test. You're going to call it something much more explicit that explains what you're doing. We're going to click on test. Look how familiar the screen looks, but there's nothing in it. So now I'm creating it. We can add the same information we had before. We can click on the question tab. We still have that blue bar to add a question. And I just want you to see the question types. So we have true, false, multiple choice, multi-answer, fill in the blank, matching, all of which are auto-graded with your choice of looking at it before you post the grades or not, so you can check to make sure. We have essay, and as a former English teacher, I need to tell you that essay can be a 5-paragraph essay, but it also can be a short answer. Anything that's more of a free-form text, that's what you would choose as essay.
Totally agree with that.
Yes. And then we also have math problem, which allows you to put in some math symbols using the math editor. So there's a lot of options here, and as you go through the base camp, you'll see videos on each of these types of questions. So we're not going to go through all of those right now. In fact, the only other thing I want to show you is, let me go back to the content. And remember, we created that district course. I'm going to go back to my dashboard. We created this district course to share with other people in our district. Again, maybe a grade level, maybe a building. It depends on how you set that up in your district. We're going to click on the content there. And I'm just going to show you that under that one, we have the option for a common assessment. And that's a great thing to use for grade levels. Perhaps, even with 3rd grade reading guarantee, you want to get a practice going. You can create a common assessment that can then be loaded into data maps. So I'm not going to talk about that right now because we're focusing on virtual classroom. Just want to mention it, and certainly you can let us know if you have questions about that. Let me cancel that. Just to remind you, these are some of the things you can do within the content, whether it's pre-made or what you're making for yourself. We do want to now assign that content so that we can make sure that content gets to your students. All right, so Mark, which one should I pick?
Let's go ahead and do the reconstruction error amendments.
So I'm going to click on that, and of course, like we just said, we can review the questions, we can review the standards, we can take a look at the content, reorder things, but we just want to assign it. And this part's going to look really familiar to teachers of Gradebook. Just a couple of tweaks that are a little bit different using Virtual Classroom. So up here on the Details tab, the Add Assignment, because we've already connected this to our American Literature classes, we can say, yep, we're going to do it for both these classes. It's going to take us to this Assignment Details screen, and we are on that Main tab. So teachers, you know what you need to do. You need to pick an assignment type, whatever that type is for your course. We can certainly assign it to certain students and groups if you have it set up that way. We can use these check marks for certain things if you would like. But we definitely, because this is a multiple choice, we just want to do post the marks to the web right away. If it isn't multiple choice, or if you have a blend like much of this content, you can grade it before and then post it, but it will still auto-grade the parts that are objective. All right, so we can also take a look at some options down here, and these are things that are decisions you need to make. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I always forget this, Mark. Right here where it says quiz name, this is a link that takes us right back into the screen with the questions. So I always think to myself, how can I get there easily? It's right here on this screen. Allow the students to work on the activity. So I have it open-ended here, but Mark, you were talking a little bit about students working on it at different times.
Yeah. Sometimes I would put times if I had a class in the morning or in the afternoon, so I might just put detailed information there. So actually, if my first period was my American government class, I might put it will open at 8 o'clock until 8:41. It would only be open for that period of time. Then if students were absent, they would have to come to me and we would set up another time. If it was, sometimes I did essay assessments, open-ended questions, and then sometimes I made that window a little bit longer so they're able to do that outside the classroom as well. So I think it's a pretty good tool to use.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, depending on what your needs are as a teacher. Preview before post. I'm going to check that just so we can talk about it a little bit. Selecting this option lets you review and change any auto-scored marks before they are posted to Gradebook. If you do not select this option, marks will automatically post. So I'm going to uncheck it because I want it to automatically go. But I know that when I was teaching, there were times when I really wanted to see before I posted it. Or maybe I don't want to post it because I don't want them all jumping onto the grades right away. I want to wait a little bit. So you have that option. Allow the students to view their answers. Let the students see the correct answers. These are, again, options that you can choose. Scramble the questions. Wow, isn't that great if you're in a classroom setting and everyone's taking the same quiz and you just want to scramble them. Third-party files, you need to have Google Drive set up and Microsoft OneDrive set up, so we're going to let that go for right now. But this one is so important. It's the one I forget all the time. Publish immediately. Now, you don't have to publish immediately, but I like that if you don't publish immediately, it's not there.
Yeah, you can't. You want to be able to do the activity.
And you think you've got it all, and you go, wait, what did I forget to check? So publish immediately. On this screen, that's a check mark that I like to use, and I also like to do post marks to the web. If that's all you do, besides, of course, your assignment type, then you're in good shape.
I totally agree with that.
Okay, so we're going to keep going. We're going to save it. And now that has been posted for my students. Now, I would like to actually walk you through what the student side looks like. So I'm going to pop over here to my gradebook. I'm going to select one of the classes that I assigned that activity to. And of course, this also looks very familiar to you, but let me show it to you from a student perspective. So here's my list of students. I'm actually just going to go right into View Parent Access website. Opens up a new tab. Now I'm going to pretend I'm this student. So we're going to click on Activities. And this is under an American Literature course, but we're going to scroll down until we see Reconstruction Era Amendments. That's the one I just assigned to them. So I'm going to click on that. And as you know, students are very familiar with these kinds of things. Here's the Begin button. Direct them to that green Begin button. Let it load because there's so much content in here. You got to make sure you got to give it time to load with all of those visuals for the students. I'm going to scroll up to the top so you can see everything. So, student is going to read. They're going to read. They're going to take a look at some of these things. They might go to that Quizlet for some practice. They're going to stop for answering questions 1 through 10. So this is where they know it's time to take a look at the questions. They can continue to respond to these questions. They can even upload, as you can see here. They can upload for the Jefferson County content. They can upload other files. Let me keep scrolling down. You'll notice we have this question menu off to the side. If I click on that, a student can easily get to a question perhaps that they wanted to go back to after they've gone through all of it.
You know what? I think it's a great tool because I know as a student myself that there might be questions that I'm answering. Maybe my 10th question, I'm like, oh, some of that I remember now on question 5 I could go back to. So sometimes things trigger in a student's head that they remember something that they learned from just answering another question. So I think that's a really good tool.
And again, we're back to good practices all the way around. This is a student working at their own pace. This is a student who can refer to materials, resources, primary sources, other sources. So you're hitting a lot of metacognition. You're doing a lot with, just specific skills that they need, even beyond the content. So let's pretend I answered all of those questions, which I know I did not. We're going to click on Save and Exit. Now, I want to just caution you, or not caution you, but let you know that there is an autosave here. So every time they answer a question, it will save. I know that, sometimes students are a little slow to answer questions. You might want to encourage them to click out of a question so that it auto saves, and that's just a way to make sure everything is saving for them. So we're going to click Save and Exit. Now, depending on how long you give them to work on this, here's a situation where, oh, you know what, I need to walk away right now. I'm not going to submit it for grading. But if they were going to submit it for grading, they could click on Submit for Grading. And of course, once I do that, no more am I allowed to change those questions. If this were completely an objective test or quiz, then it would show me immediately whether these were incorrect or correct. And all of the pending ones need your attention as a teacher. You would need to go in and grade that. So let's take a look. I'm going to actually switch gears a little bit and go to a different course to show you the grading for your side of it. So I'm showing you another teacher's dashboard just to give you an idea of how it might look from the grading side. So we have that link for grading right here. And when you click on that, it's going to give you a list of your content, and it's actually going to tell you who is in progress, or how many are in progress, and how many are ready to grade. Let me go back to the dashboard and get an example of some that are already graded and some that still need to be graded. So on this one, I have 12 that are in progress, 2 that have been graded. I am ready to grade 15. So let me go to that particular one. Your process is your process. So you might be grading a little bit at a time. You might be waiting until all of your students have submitted. That's how you want to do it. But you can see from this grading screen, you get all that information very simply and very easily. Let's go to this particular assignment. And I have all my students have submitted. I can even see the attempts that they've made on it. And I can see their seat time. That does help out with just knowing how much time they spent on that particular assignment. This is a demo database, so some of these kids have been programmed in here to spend way too much time on their assignment. When you start to see this, sometimes you'll actually see 0 minutes. If it's a 5-question assignment and it's ABCD, multiple choice, sometimes it's 0 minutes.
Yes.
Just because it's super fast.
Yep.
Sometimes it's much more than that. I'm going to go ahead and click on the first student, and it's going to take me to my grading screen. I am now looking at my students' answers, and I'm looking at both. I can look at the auto-scored, I can look at the ungraded. So up here are some filters. If I say, let me see all the questions, even the ones that were auto, or all the auto-scored, I can click here. I want to see all the questions, I can click here. To make it simple on you, you don't need to look at auto-scored, you just need to look at ungraded. So with the content we were looking at for Jefferson County, you really only want to look at those essay questions. So really quick, easy thing to click on ungraded. I have to scroll through and kind of say, okay, what's going on? So you notice we have a really easy icon here that says ungraded, so that draws my attention to it. I can say to myself, hey, you know what? I'm going to put my numbers in, but really we have these quick keys over here.
Susan, that's a really nice setup for the teachers. I think it's clever and it's unique, and I think that's going to be something that teachers will utilize.
And I was a partial credit person. I always gave partial credit.
And I could totally agree with that too.
So I can give 50%, I can type in a number, I can give 100%, I can give a 0. I can just keep scrolling and using my mouse to do these things. You'll notice the score over here stays with us. This comment section is for the whole assignment. This comment is for the question. So you get to give feedback however you would like to give feedback. So let me just quickly score this. I'll give him 100% on this. I'm not looking at the answer, so we're faking it right now. I'm going to give this one a 0. I've got it all in there. He's got a 6 out of 10. We're going to go ahead and post that. And now, once it's posted, I'm at my second student.
Pretty easy access. Everything's located, like I know I've repeated myself, but I really like how everything's at one location. When you post that score, it goes directly in that student's grade book, so that student's going to be able to see it immediately. The parents are going to be able to see it immediately. So it's less time on different windows. It's less time for the teacher to transport grades, paper pencil grades, to ProgressBook or another LMS system into ProgressBook. It's all located on one side, which I really like.
So there you have grading, and there is a video on this as well as a training guide that will step you through it a little more slowly if you'd like to. So you have that information on how to grade. All right, so we've talked about content, we've talked about grading. Mark, we're almost ready to wrap it up.
All right.
Let's take a look at
Yes.
the base camp. So we want you to use this base camp, which you've been invited to by Mark or by me or by our Software Answers support help. You've been invited to join this base camp so that you can go through these resources at your own pace and start to use these items in your classroom. I want to show you that up at the top here, you're going to see the people in the base camp. So this will include people like your teachers in your building. You'll notice that if you hover over one, it'll tell you who that person is. There's me. There's Mark. So we really are real people, not voices, just voices. You actually can add and remove people yourself. So we're going to add you to begin with, but you can add more people. I always like to tell people that this sends you emails almost constantly. And for Mark and I, that's a great thing.
Yes.
Because we want to keep on top of what's happening in here. For you, a very busy teacher, you might want to go up here to the upper right and turn off your notifications. If you turn off your notifications, you got to remember that you've done that, and you'll be coming in here when you want to come in here. So bookmark it, know that it's here. That's totally up to you. Let's talk about the different the different features. Doc and files. I'm going to click there because there are 3 great things here. First of all, how to use Basecamp. If you need to do it, you got it. I love this virtual classroom quick reference card. I hesitate to show that to people at the beginning, but I often print this out and have it for myself because it just gives me a reminder. What did Susan say about that section? What did Mark tell me about this? It's just a real quick reminder. Let's go back to Doc and Files. Mark has this great list of the courses, so if you don't want to hunt through the library, you can choose a grade level and you'll see what's there, or a subject area. That's available here too. There's actually a second page. Actually, I think there's 3 pages.
Yes.
So it's way more than what you see on the
Yes.
screen right now. Let's go back into the Basecamp, the homepage. You're going to see to-dos. So I'm going to click on that, and these are just guides for you to go through kind of step by step. So the first one is the ITC, or District Progress Book Administrator. Most of you don't have to worry about that. If you are the Progress Book Administrator for your district and you have questions about setting this up, please contact your ITC. We have the classroom overview, which is great for everyone to look at just to get a feel for some of the things we've talked about in an overview. I am going to click on this to do the Jefferson County ESC content and test prep. We have 2 videos that will show you how to use the Jefferson County ESC courses. And I also listed for you all the test prep courses because that's a great use of this.
I think it's a great supplement to what you're doing in the classroom as well. It gives you extra resources, extra activities for that student that you can incorporate for maybe an individual student, maybe a small group of students, or even all of your students. It gives you activities and it's at your fingertips. So it's there for you to utilize however you want. You can be as unique as you want, as creative as you want, utilizing that information.
And then we have this quick look at how to import Jefferson County content. So that's right here under this to do. You can look at it here to remind yourself how to do it, or you can print it out, you can download it, you can do what you need to do with that. Just to remember how to do that, because we did talk about quite a bit today. I'm going to scroll back up and just go back to the to-dos. Some of the things that we hit on, but we didn't quite do all of it, or we went through it very quickly. You know, creating and linking a course to classes, creating online activities, including those discussions that we did not talk about. Here's grading activities, if we went through that too quickly. Here's interpreting student activity results, which we didn't quite look at either. There's quite a bit here that will help you to follow through with your training in a self-paced way. Work at your own pace, on your time, maybe with a group of teachers in your building would be another great way to do this. So there's a lot here in the Basecamp. Now, honestly, most important is this message board. I'm going to click on that because here's where you can type in a title and a message. And what you're going to see down below there, can be for questions. This could be for ideas for your team of teachers. How are you using this? Maybe you want to tell the teachers in your building you found this great activity under 3rd grade math that's going to help you out. Communicate here as a group. You'll notice down below it says when I post, these 3 people will be notified and that you can change it. Here's what I'm going to caution you at. This is great. And especially if you're having an issue, like you're like, you know what, I really don't know how to assign this to a class. Can someone please help me out? I thought I understood it. You put a question in here, make sure it's going to everybody in the base camp. Because I'm going to tell you, Mark's a busy guy. I can't always see and answer these questions. So make sure you send it to everyone, and whoever is first to answer that, you'll get your answer. A nice way to have a community, almost like a chat board.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mark, is there anything we forgot?
I think they're going to be ready to go. I think as, educators and so forth, we learn by doing the activities. I think that's where you have to start, assigning an activity, assigning a small quiz, and it's just steps. I think, being Susan, you being in teaching, and myself, and using ProgressBook for years and years and years, it's come such a long way. And I remember doing grading on paper and pencil, and now I would never ever want to go back to do that. So I know this is a new learning experience. I'm really excited about the base camp. I believe teachers can utilize that to get the answers or concerns that they have, and it's a really good tool. A lot of schools in Ohio have been using it, and I think this will help any anxiety that they have. But we're here to help, and we're here to help not just the students of Ohio, but the educators of Ohio that make our students so great in the state.
I'm going to end it right there. Thank you so much, Mark, and thank all of you for watching. Please let us know if you have questions.